Biles withdrawing from team gymnastics event today and her deeply personal explanation. James Longman from Tokyo.
Tonight, heartbreak and resilience at the women's team gymnastics, half stopping as star Olympian Simone Biles stumbled on the vault. Confusion as she's seen back in her tracksuit, and then the 24-year-old shocking the world, pulling out of the rest of the competition.
I didn't want to risk the team a medal for kind of my screw-ups because they've worked way too hard for that.
Her teammates, Sinisa Lee, Jordan Charles and Grace McCallum stepping up, Biles cheering them on from the sidelines, but in the end it was a silver medal behind Russia's gold. Biles saying that she stepped aside to take care of her mental health.
Special edition of Biles. We talk about Olympic gymnastics champion Simone Biles pulls out of the Tokyo 2020 Olympic finals. And Simone Biles said that she wanted to check her mental health. Her mental health was important, and it is. But we'll get to it. We're stunned. The world is watching. But first thing first, join in the conversation using the hashtag #ViralHereOnConnect. Don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe is caring. Tell a friend, call a friend, hit that subscribe button so you won't miss a thing. We talk about Olympic champion and gymnastics standout Simone Biles saying that she wants to withdraw from the Olympic team finals in Tokyo, Japan, and she wants to check in her mental health because she said her mental health is so important. Mental health has been a crucial point in the world, society, and Simone Biles saying that she's no different. She wants to check in her mental health because she knows that she matters and she will put her health first. Well, let's get to how all this Simone Biles transpired with her mental health. Take a look.
Tonight, heartbreak and resilience at the women's team gymnastics, half stopping as star Olympian Simone Biles stumbled on the vault. Confusion as she's seen back in her tracksuit, and then the 24-year-old shocking the world, pulling out of the rest of the competition.
I didn't want to risk the team a medal for kind of my screw-ups because they've worked way too hard for that.
Her teammates, Sinisa Lee, Jordan Charles and Grace McCallum stepping up, Biles cheering them on from the sidelines, but in the end it was a silver medal behind Russia's gold. Biles saying that she stepped aside to take care of her mental health.
I say put mental health first, so it's okay sometimes to even sit out the big competitions to focus on yourself.
Another shock, Japan's Naomi Osaka dealt a crushing blow. The tennis superstar, number 2 in the world, losing to Czech Republic's Markita Vondrasova, ranked 42nd. Osaka telling reporters, "I definitely feel like there was a lot of pressure for this." And the US now leading in overall medals. The Alaskan assassin, Lydia Jacoby, upsetting teammate Lily King in the 100-meter breaststroke. Jacoby, Alaska's first Olympic swimmer to win gold, placing her small town of Seward on the map. Fans reacting all over her hometown. Now the big question, will Simone Biles compete in the individual competition? Well, she says she's taking it one day at a time.
As you saw the highlights, that she wants to put her mental health first, and you can't blame her because most of the time you be put in the pressure situation, pressure moments, and you feel like you have to do it. And Simone Biles made clear that she said the whole world is on her shoulders. The world weighs on her, and she wants to be relieved and don't feel that much pressure. And I can understand that, and I can feel her for that, because most times people put pressure moments on themselves, and things go awry, and things happen. Well, Simone Biles elaborated a little bit more during the press conference when she talked about why she had to withdraw. Take a look.
No injury, thankfully, and that's why I took a step back, because I didn't want to do something silly out there and get injured. So I thought it was best if these girls took over and did the rest of the job, which they absolutely did. They're Olympic silver medalists now, and they should be really proud of themselves for how well they did last minute having to go in. And it's been really stressful, this Olympic Games, I think, just as a whole, not having an audience. There are a lot of different variables going into it. It's been a long week. It's been a long Olympic process. It's been a long year. So just a lot of different variables, and I think we're just a little bit too stressed out, but we should be out here having fun, and sometimes that's not the case.
Yes, please.
So
The question.
yeah, we're going to take it a day at a time. I know tomorrow that we have a half day, or at least the morning off, so it'll be a good mental rest, and so we'll take it from there.
Struggling with mental health issues.
Biles explaining that she didn't want to embarrass her teammates. She wanted to encourage them rather than embarrass them, and it's understandable. And what a brave, courageous thing for Simone Biles to do, to put herself first and put her mental health first. You know, mental health matters because people will say stuff that you don't like, and you know you bottle it up, and then you kind of wonder if that is. But you know, Simone Biles kind of know the way of the land and is a gymnastics standout. She was going to, you know, do what she wanted to do in gymnastics, but unfortunately, Simone Biles saying that her mental health was important and she didn't want to risk that, and I can understand that. All right, let's hear what you people had to say about Simone Biles withdrawing from the Olympics. And let's hear what you people had to say. Take a look.
I'm tapping out. I can't do no more. This is too much. This is stressful. Y'all want me to just be this and to be that. Well, what she said was, I'm withdrawing from the team competition, if you've been paying attention to the news right now. And that she's going to, I think it's on Thursday, she's going to compete in the individual all-around final. And sometimes you do. You do have to take a break for your mental health. And you know, when I heard that, I was like, yes. Because sometimes your best performance is solo. You know, when we have a mental health issue, we're always told, get friends, get a support network, you know, gather your resources. I agree wholeheartedly. Sometimes get professional help. Hey, like me, right? Do all of those things. But you know how you know if it's working? When you go out there by yourself. You know, one of the hardest parts of my relationship with my clients is ending it. Because people become very comfortable holding on to this team and staying with the team. But the way you really know if your work is really working for you, you go out there by yourself. And I love it. I was like, yes, that's when you know, when all of the things that she has done and what she's trying to do within the next 48 hours to really see what she's made of, and if those things are really working. Number two, sometimes that job ain't working. Her job is to be an athlete, to be a gymnast. And you know, we say, I got to do it. I got to do it because I got to pay the bills. I got to do it for the kids. You know, I got to do it because everyone is counting on me. And I agree, you ain't lying. All of those things are important. But when you drop, and you can't function, what are those people going to do? And I love what she did. What Simone did, she said, I am going to step back and let my team do what they are prepared to do. Prepare your team to function without you. You have literally handicapped yourself. You handicap yourself to the job. You handicap yourself to taking care of them kids. Okay, you say, well, if I don't take care of my kids, no one else will. You know what? I actually believe you. But sometimes they can eat a soup and some sandwich for dinner. Sometimes they can eat cereal for dinner. Why? Because you just ain't got it. Prepare the team to move forward without you. And then stand back and cheer for them. I mean, and I want you to really think about it. Really think about what your systems are in place. And does this require you? And does this require you? And does this require you? If everything around you requires you, it ain't going to work. Because you can't be all of that all of the time. And there is so much power in admitting that. Because folks think that that's weakness. You can't handle it. You're right. I can't handle everything. Matter of fact, God didn't even design me to handle everything. This is why we're not out here on this earth by ourselves. He has sent resources and help in all kinds of forms. I'm not out here trying to handle everything. That's not my job. That's not my role. That's not what I'm here for. You know, and people think, oh, okay, well, even with me, because of what I do, I'm a helper, I'm a healer, I'm a counselor. Aren't you going to help? Aren't you going to say something? No. Sometimes I'm not, because that's not my role in that person's life. Because I haven't done anything to build a relationship. Because sometimes people come to me about stuff with total strangers. I don't know them. They don't know me. That's not my role. I haven't formed any type of teamwork. I don't have any agreements with this person whatsoever. And I'm supposed to think that I alone can come in and I can have a conversation that's going to bring about the change that you want. No, I'm not setting myself up for that. That's crazy to me. I'm not doing that to me. I am not powerful to that capacity. It's not my role. And that's not your role, too. It is not your.
Simone Biles deserves a gold medal for her life. She's not only accomplished so much athletically, but she's turned into such a fantastic person who's concerned about the lives of young people, the things that she went through, she's trying to help them get through. She is truly an inspiration. And whether she wins gold or whether she doesn't, she's gold in my mind for all the things she represents, the best of young people, the best of a human being.
Still a developing story out of Tokyo involving really the star of the games, Simone Biles.
That's correct. And TJ, the team got silver medal tonight, so that was certainly an exciting thing, but it certainly was less than what they were hoping for, a gold medal. And a lot of people are pointing to the dramatic event that happened right after the first rotation. Simone Biles had a shaky vault. It wasn't terrible. She certainly didn't look like she injured herself, but she walked off to talk to her trainer and came back in sweats, and it was announced shortly thereafter that she was leading the competition and having her teammates step in her place. And so there was a lot of speculation as to why. Was she injured? Was this a mental health issue? Well, Simone Biles came out in a press conference shortly after the competition to clear things up. Her transparency is admirable because we know a lot more now. Kenneth Moulton, you were there when it happened, when you saw her walk out after that vault, and now we're hearing from Simone Biles directly saying that it wasn't because she didn't have the support of her family, but she needs a mental health day.
Yes, we all need mental health days, and for Simone Biles, she is a gymnast who is watched by the world, and inside those venues, all eyes are on Simone Biles, and so now we know it is not physical. There was no injury. In fact, we saw her back on the floor with her teammates, jumping up and down, cheering them on because she's the anchor of Team USA Gymnastics. And so when she was out there, we were worried. But now we've learned that she needs a mental health day. And again, as you mentioned, this is why her fans love her. That transparency. She talks about what she's going through, and we knew something was wrong. The moment she hit that vault, the moment she hit that apparatus, she landed, she stumbled. We knew something was not right. She made a beeline for the sideline there. She was surrounded by cameras. She was surrounded by her teammates. They took a moment. She walked off the floor. We understand that she went to go get her composure. She knew what was going on, and she knew that she needed to take a step back. And in fact, it appears that what she did, she wanted to save her team.
Yeah.
She did this for her team because she thought that she would hurt their chances in medaling if she continued on with the floor exercises there. And I just think that's also incredible.
It certainly is. And Kenneth, when we were watching her, you and I were both in that arena, she was all smiles. I was pretty blown away by that and cheering on her teammates, as we said. But in the press conference, reporters who were there in the room said she did break down. She was in tears. She obviously realizes the impact of all of this. And I do love the fact that she said, I feel like they needed to step up without me, and they did just that. So it is still, however, unclear what's going to happen on Thursday, correct, Kenneth?
That is correct. We heard from USA Gymnastics that said that she hasn't been cleared yet for this, what they call medical at first, and she hasn't been cleared for further competitions. But could you imagine, Amy, having all of this on your shoulders, this young woman who knows that she is the most watched gymnast, she's the most decorated, and here she is, the anchor of this team, and she feels like she has all of this that she has to carry. That is a lot.
And it's interesting, I was never at the level of her, but I was a former competitive gymnast, and she said this, I'm getting older, and I'm a little bit more nervous now when I do gymnastics, and it is fair to point out that the difficulty that she chooses to perform is far surpasses anyone else. That's why she gets those high scores, because she is doing things that other gymnasts wouldn't even attempt to do at a level that she's doing it. So she's got to get her head straight before she gets on those events.
Not to mention the COVID protocols. She's having to deal with that, thinking about the health and safety of her and her teammates as well.
Well, it is a lot on one person's shoulders, and so we are all wishing her the very, very best. And I know we'll both be watching. TJ will let you know everything as soon as we find out, but certainly all eyes remain on Simone Biles, but our hearts and our prayers are with her too.
And absolutely, we want to make sure she's okay. But even on that stage, prioritizing mental health is a big, big deal. Robes, thank you so much. We'll continue to check in.
We can admit it, right? We wanted to see her. We're disappointed for her and her teammates, but the incredible strength that she exhibited here, what you're going to call this, if you haven't dived into the details and thought about it deeply enough, is some sort of collapse or choke. That's how we talk about sports. But what it indeed was somebody who recognized that in those moments when she was shaking, maybe anxiety, a panic attack, we don't know, before the competition, and then to, in the air, not know how many turns she had done, to not land it well, and to put her team behind the 8 ball with the very first score that she posted in the first rotation, was to say, I'm going to make things worse for my team if I compete, and I might put myself at risk, which is something that she also mentioned on the podium today. She said, you know, I didn't want to do something silly out there because I wasn't mentally there. Think about the danger of the things that she's doing up there if she's not all together with it. So she removed herself from the competition to benefit both herself in that moment as she recognized she was unable to compete, but also her team. And she said, they've worked their whole lives for this. I don't want to take them out of the competition because I'm not able to go out there and do what I need to. So yeah, they she put some pressure on them because they could only use the 3 scores that they had in each event, and there was no rotation anymore. You got to use those people every single event. But they went out and got a silver medal, which is probably better than they might have done if Simone Biles had continued competing at the level that we saw on that first rotation.
Bomani Jones, when you take in that Biles said, I'm not going to compete today, and saying that the mental was not there, how do you hear that?
Well, I thought it took a certain measure of humility to be willing to say that. Like, we are talking about someone who's the greatest of all time at what she does, at the highest stage. You know, something that was really for her, as much as anything else, going to be a victory lap. There was nothing left for her to prove. You don't typically see so many competitors of her age continue after they've accomplished so much. And she looked around and said, nah, they'll probably be better without me. Like, this is kind of equivalent when you looked at Giannis in the finals, recognizing Chris Middleton should take some of those shots. It takes a humility to be that superstar and not demand to be the person in the light in the moments as they were right then. Now, what I'm curious to see, though, and I want to be careful about is, it's easy to talk about, well, people will say that this was a choke, but I haven't seen that discussion really pop up yet. Like, I don't think we need to fight at the ghost on that in particular, because like I say, you have seen it, I have not. I can just say that I personally have not. But I think it's a very important thing to recognize that part of why these stars are more comfortable saying these things about mental health is because we as a public are more accepting of those things than we have ever been before. So I want to be clear, we need to protect the people who have the courage to say these things in these moments, but also recognize part of why they can is that there's a world full of people who have created a much more comfortable environment to allow for such a thing to happen. I just don't want us to get too caught up on what a few crazy people say on the internet and extrapolate that out to be more than a whole lot of people who are there to put their arms around her, literally and figuratively.
Bill Plaschke.
No, Bomani, I'm sorry to say, I don't think we are as accepting as we should be. I have heard people today say, this is Tom Brady backing out at the start of the Super Bowl. This is LeBron James walking out on Game 7. And that's such a misguided notion. LeBron James and Tom Brady have no clue the pressure that Simone Biles is under. She's representing not just a team or a city, but an entire country. And even though this is a team competition, it's an individual. She's out there on 4 inches of balance beam, on 90 seconds of a free routine. She has her whole life, her whole career, her whole expectations are boiled down into minutes. and she has to perform under the greatest of pressure, and she's the GOAT, and she's supposed to carry the country, and she has a little bit of a breakdown, I think we've got to cut her a lot of slack, and I give her a lot of courage for acknowledging this fact. And a lot of these Olympians are going through this, and it has nothing to, again, Brady and LeBron have no clue what she's going through.
Israel, is that how you see it?
Well, yes, in a way, because what gets me is what the question I always ask, or I ask in this situation, is what got us to this point, or what got her to this point? Because this is a woman who's been doing this forever. She's been her entire life. She's been the best at it for as long as she's been doing it. It would seem she can do this with her eyes closed. And as Bomani said, this was supposed to be a victory lap for her. She could have taken down the difficulties and still had sort of a victory lap in these 2020 games. And so it just goes to tell you how severe all of this trauma, all of this stress is, whether it be just the stress of, carrying your country in this sport where all eyes are on you, or the stress of being, a young 24-year-old black woman in the States with all this power over, at such a young age, and all this, all this power at all this such a young age. And then you talk about her with Larry Nassar being a survivor and wanting to make a statement and not allowing U.S. gymnastics to just sweep this under the rug and let the story pass by. A lot of things going on, not to mention that we're in the middle of a pandemic and there's no crowd there. And so maybe it might be more like all eyes are on her because there's no sound, there's nothing else, there's just her, and she is the centerpiece of this sport. So while, you can have a debate on what it meant for her to bail out of it, I think it was bold of her, and I think it was better for her teammates. But you can't argue that it is impossible for everyday people like ourselves to understand the stresses that she is going through and that she has gone through. And even this Olympics has not been the same as her previous one, and I totally understand the experience.
What you're seeing is a younger generation setting boundaries around what mental health is and what they owe an audience. And we as sports fans love to celebrate when our athletes get to the top of the mountain. But there could be another part of the equation. Witnessing and being there in support of them or in support of each other as they show us the other side.
This team gymnastic final in the Olympics, it is obviously bad news for her many, many fans. Women's gymnastics is generally one of the sports people most look forward to. She is one of the most accomplished, if not the most accomplished women's gymnasts in the history of the sport. So it was sad to see it. We want to give you the details, though. While performing her Aminar vault during the first rotation of the team competition, she only managed 1.5 rotations and landed awkwardly, prompting gasps from onlookers. She exited the competition after the vault and headed off the floor with a team doctor. She came back to the arena, hugged her teammates, and watched the rest of the competition in her warm-up uniform. At the time, there was a statement saying from USA Gymnastics saying she had to withdraw due to a medical issue. She will be assessed daily to determine medical clearance for future competitions. Now, she has since said that I just didn't want to go on after that performance. I'm just dealing with things internally that will get fixed in the next couple of days. No injury, thankfully. It's been really stressful, this Olympic Games. I think we're just a little bit too stressed out, but we should be out here having fun, and sometimes that's not the case. She later on said, there's more to life than just gymnastics. So initially they'd made it seem as if she had injured herself in the vault. It apparently was not the case. But she, at least for now, will not be competing. There is, of course, also the individual around there, the individual event competitions that will be taking place. No word yet that I have found about whether she will be competing in those. But Jason, what are your thoughts?
I mean, look, Simone Biles said it, quoting her, the weight of the world is on her shoulders. This is someone who is very decorated as a gymnast. This is the Olympics. Of course, last year in 2020, they were postponed because of the pandemic. 4 years is a long time to be training for this. Also, she is, every Olympiad has the story, the stars. In 96, Atlanta, Carrie Strug, the Atlanta 6. Every single Olympiad has that one person, Michael Phelps. The list goes on and on that you're watching for, right? They become the stories, the celebrities, the narrative for the U.S. Beyond the scandal that Team USA Gymnastics has had, with the inappropriate behavior of the past, gymnastics has always been something that has been at the forefront for the Olympics. That's what we watch. That's prime time. That's great TV. And Simone Biles is young, and also she's at a space in her life where, yeah, she has the medals, but she's realizing, much like Naomi Osaka, who talked about mental health, that's important, right? The pandemic, John, and everyone watching,
people can stop and say, hey, I wasn't affected by that. But we all were affected in some way, shape, or form, even world-class athletes. And as someone who's been training for 5 years now to be here in Tokyo, which is a really weird experience watching the Olympics now because there's no audience, the fanfare is not there, the news is constantly saying, it's a $20 billion failure. That affects an athlete. And she's like, I didn't have the best performance, and I don't owe anyone anything, right? I don't owe you guys anything. I'm a human being. Let me live. So I commend Simone, and I think it's funny how USA Gymnastics, of course, the PR team had to make sure they were ready with that statement. Yeah, that was in alignment with what you would say, and Simone's like, skirt, hard swerve, pivot, full stop. Nope, that's not what we're doing. And she's honest. Yeah, she's honest, and I appreciate that. No one's going to take away from her. Even if she doesn't do well this Olympiad, no one's going to take away from who she is in sports history. And
she's already had all those wins.
I mean, now this is just like, okay, cool, fine. What's another gold medal when I have 4 other ones? What's another gold medal when I'm in the Guinness Book of World Records at such a young age, and I've changed the game of the sport?
Exactly. Yeah. She doesn't owe it to anyone. Nobody can touch her. Literally, she'll just flip over you or whatever. If she doesn't want to compete, she doesn't have to. And there's others on the team who will. I'm glad that you brought up the Carrie Strug thing on social media. Many people were using the experience of Carrie Strug back in 1996 to attack Simone Biles. First of all, as a person who watched that Olympics, that's what got me into Olympics and gymnastics. Screw you. Right. Don't get Carrie Strug's name out of your mouth. First of all. Second of all, it's weird to use that as so you should hurt yourself because someone else did. So first of all, there's people are helping to add the context. She didn't have to. She was forced into it by Bella Caroli because he couldn't do the math to know that they'd already won the gold. She didn't need to do the second vault. And then also, of course, she was carried off and then handed to Larry Nassar. So that time was dark, okay? Let's not say that women should be obligated to be in the sort of situation they were in then. Anyway, especially because Simone Biles, I believe, is one of those who's talked about the legacy of abuse in her own experience. Mm-hmm. So she can do whatever the hell she wants, honestly. And the rest of the team is amazing. I'm not going to talk about the results because I have this really weird attachment to not having things spoiled. I know some people are going to watch it later. But anyway, they got a great team. Don't worry about it.
A lot of encouraging words from people that believe in Simone Biles. That's what Simone Biles wants. She wants to put herself first and put mental health first. And a lot of people are supporting her and encouraging her and telling her, put your mental health first. And that's what she's doing. And commendable for Simone Biles, commendable for a lot of people, the majority of people. And then, too, you're going to have some people that's going to hate, saying that suspicious, but I'd rather her get her life in order and life straight than just worry about the Olympics, because you can always win trophies down the road, but you have to put yourself first. And that's what she's doing. She put her mental health first, and it's commendable for her for doing so. All right. Thank you all for watching this edition of Biles. We talk about Simone Biles withdrawing from the Olympics and trying to put her mental health first. I've been your host, Kendrick Dick, saying so long. We'll see you next time for another edition of Biles.